Polaris in the comic books recently is depicted with her coffee. Like, what is your ideal morning coffee situation?
When I do drink coffee, it's a black coffee hot with one Splenda. And I believe that's also what Lorna would drink in real life.
A daddy cable.
Daddy cable. I would love that. I would love.
Shout out to the Powers of X-Men podcast.
Hottest writers at Marvel Comics right now.
The Pretender's death. Like, be.
Right, familia, Power of X-Men, we're with. Do you love Power of X-Men?
I love Power of X-Men. Of course I do. Do I? Yes, I do.
Amelia Dayspring here with a very special guest. I feel like we have been talking for like a very long time, and it's so weird to me that you haven't been on the podcast before.
I know. Well, and I'll be honest, I just started listening maybe a month or two ago, so I'm fresh into the podcast world.
Fuck you! You've only been listening.
I've been following you. How long have we been following each other? Because I feel like we followed each other on the same day, and I don't remember if you followed me first or if I followed you first.
Well, here's the thing. I was telling this to Latvarian Lad, who is a friend we have in common. The second I see a Cyclops like cosplayer, I'm just like, who is that? So yeah, it was probably an instant follow. Even though I hate the word following, but it's more of I had an appreciation for your X-Men Evolution Cyclops. It sounds even more absurd online or saying it out loud. But folks at home, we are talking to Chaz from House of M Cosplay. That's your new name, right? House of M Cosplay.
That's the new name, yes. So I was originally going by Chasma _12. And I have a story about that. I guess we were talking about it in a little bit, but my favorite Star Wars character is Captain Phasma, and I used to work for Disney. I was supposed to be Phasma. We'll get into that story.
We want all the tea.
My coworkers would call me Captain Chasma, so I loved it, and I made that my Instagram handle. And then I was like, I'm not even cosplaying Star Wars right now, so I'm going to change it to something more marvelous.
Something more marvelous. Well, I love your cosplay, and folks at home, you've seen his cosplay before. He does the X-Men Evolution Cyclops. He does a really awesome gender bent Wanda, which I am obsessed with. But I think one of the one But I think the one that you absolutely nail, and for me, I'm just like, it's Doctor Strange. And Black Widow as well, by the way, your gender bent Black Widow. It's incredible.
May she rest in peace. Not even the character, but my cosplay got ruined.
Wait, what happened to your cosplay?
So I was doing some minor upgrades for it for my wife, Emily, to where I was trying to fit it to her, and I sliced it with scissors, and I can't repair it. Like it is, yeah. So maybe I'll fix it with a different suit someday.
I don't pretend to understand the pangs that you cosplayers go through. We have several cosplayers on the pod. You may or may not know since you've only been listening for like a month, but look at me shading you.
I've been following for forever.
It's taken me a minute to even have you on, so you're entitled to be shady. I keep saying like, oh, let's do this date, and I'm like, oops, sorry, I have to cancel.
I think I've canceled. I think I joked with you the day, and I said I've canceled on you twice, and you've canceled on me 5 times.
Yeah, no, listen. Well, it's so funny. I was talking to Hammy on the. I don't know if you know Hammy, but he's a cosplayer. You do know Hammy.
I started following. If he's listening to this, Michael, I'm a huge fan. And your Gambit, I would say your Gambit is the best. It's not as good as mine, but no, I'm just kidding. That is why I started following him. I was like, this guy's Gambit is amazing. And then honestly, everything he does is spot on. So
Well, yes, everything he does is spot on. Two, he is such a stan. So he is listening. Fuck you, Hammy. We love you. But three, I was talking to Hammy, and a mutual friend of ours asked us to do a collaboration. And Hammy was like, "Oh God," he asked us to do a collaboration. The two most flakiest people like ever. And I'm like, "Shit, man!" Because pre the world going back to the way it is, I I ran the podcast with an iron fist. We had a schedule, everything. That's it. We had to do it. Liverian Lad is very much like that. The second it goes in the diary, boom, there's no changing it. But recently, within the last like 7 months since I moved down to Florida, I'm like, sorry, can't make it. Shrug, we'll have to reschedule. And
I think
I'm sad
is
that reputation's coming through.
I moved from Florida to Tennessee, and I was that way in Florida. I would reschedule and flake out on people all the time. I was
It's a
just too
Florida
tired.
thing. Yeah.
Yes.
It's something
And
with
now
the
that I'm in
heat.
Tennessee, and now I'm in Tennessee, I'm like, okay, I can keep the schedule. It's weird.
Well, Chaz, we're here to get to know you, but also you're a
Yeah.
huge X-Men Evolution stan, and so we're
I
gonna
love
rank the characters, which is gonna be fun.
Yes. I need
We,
to
we
pull up my list.
pull up your list. We try to agree on a list going forward with people, but this is your first time on the podcast. We can be shady. We can have different rankings.
Exactly.
I don't remember where your rankings are, but I remember when we sort of looked at our lists, we kind of had some overlap, but I
Mhm.
want the power of X-Men Familia, who, if they engage with us on Instagram, if they're part of the Instagram community, they know who you are. But we do have a larger piece of the pie in the podcast community. And for folks who may not know you, why don't you give us a little brief history on who you are? Because you used to work in Disney, and I want to know,
Yes.
how was that like?
It was wonderful. So uh, my goal when I got into college, I was like, I want to be a performer at Walt Disney World, and I worked at the Disney store at the time. Loved like the storytelling aspect and like um, just the different like Disney itself is kind of a community and just all the different fans. And there's so many different things to be a fan of, which now Marvel, is a part of. Um, so I was like, I want to work for Disney for the rest of my life. This is just going to be my goal. So I had
It's a good goal to
auditioned.
have.
Yeah, I had auditioned. I started auditioning in 2012, and then I auditioned 14 times. And that 14th time, I went to a
You
Star Wars audition
auditioned 14 times.
14 times.
Wait, wait,
And
wait,
I
wait. Is there like I know how this works for like actors and auctioneers, but how does it work for people who want to be cast members at Disney? Is there like a general cattle call and you
so
just
I
respond to it?
DisneyAuditions.com. You have to
You're
check.
like, you dumb bitch. Here it is, right?
You have to you once you go there, you click on like Disneyland, Walt Disney World Cruise Line. You select which park you would like to work at, and you kind of just check. They update the auditions what they're casting for. So like they'll post and they'll say, we need performers from the height 5'10" to 6'3", and it doesn't say. Sometimes it doesn't say specifically what it's going for. You can assume it's Goofy, uh, or any other characters in that general height range. But the one that I specifically got hired for, it said Star Wars and it said Stormtrooper Darth Vader. So I was like, okay, cool. It was a little bit after, so I went to the audition in 2000. Let's see, I'm trying to think. It was 2015, and I got hired as a performer in April 2016. Mind you, I was working at Splash Mountain, may it rest in peace, before this. So like you can do internal cast member auditions only, or you can do open to the public, you know, auditions. So, and it's a crazy process. I actually hated the process. You go, they teach you a dance, and it can be super simple or it can be really hard depending on what they're looking for. So if they're more like parade focused, the dance is going to be pretty intense. And they they rate you. So you have a movement score, which is your dance score, and then you have your animation score, which is like your miming, because you can't talk in character. So your miming type score. It goes 1 to 5. My animation was a 4. I was not the best, but it
Wait,
wasn't
but it's
bad.
1 to 5, but four
One to
that
five.
seems
Four
pretty
is
good.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a B
My
plus.
my movement was a 2. I am I am your basic white boy that cannot dance,
I mean, I can't
unfortunately.
dance, and I'm Cuban, and a lot of people are like, "You grew up with salsa merengue, you did quinceañeras, and you can't dance." And like, for the life of
No,
me, I can't. At
no.
bars, I
I
prefer to be sitting in a corner, sipping a martini, judging everyone, and other people. My husband is a huge dancer. He's great on the dance floor. Good for him.
I can
I'm
see
not.
that.
Yeah,
I can totally see that.
I have absolutely
Well,
no rhythm.
so my wife Emily was also a performer, and she was a dancer. She actually went to school on a tap dancing scholarship. So
Oh my
she's like
God.
Ginger Rogers. No, not really, but uh, I have yet to see her do it as well. That's another thing. In time, I'll get her to break out the taps. But she was Cruella Deville in the Boo to You parade. So I think her dance score was like a four
Okay.
or a 5, probably a 5, honestly. But yeah, so I was a really bad dancer. But I got hired. They were looking for stormtroopers, first order stormtroopers. There's a difference between Imperial and First Order. I will die on that hill because all the time, if you're one of those people, if you're listening to this podcast and you're one of those people that go to Galaxy's Edge and yell at the First Order stormtroopers that they can't aim, you're wrong. They're not Imperial stormtroopers. They're First Order. There's a difference. These men and women were highly trained.
I
So,
have no
um,
idea what you're talking about
oh
right
my
now.
gosh, oh,
I'm not,
well,
listen,
this is an X-Men podcast, and I'm talking Star Wars. What is wrong with me?
no, listen, first of all, I love Star Wars, but I'm not the stan that you clearly are.
Well, so I wasn't either though. Before I got hired,
Yeah,
I had only
yeah.
seen episode 4, A New Hope. And when they called me and said, "Hey, you got the job. You're going to be Goofy and Stormtrooper, or you're going to be friends with," sorry, anybody who's a Disney stan listening to this, they say you're going to be friends with Goofy and the First Order Stormtroopers. So I was like, well, I should probably watch this movie since I have never seen it.
Wait, what does friends with Goofy mean?
So you have to maintain character integrity. So it is not like if I was still performing and I said, "Hey, here's my set time. Come meet Goofy at this time." You're not coming to see Chaz. You're coming to see Goofy. So
Okay.
like even if you came up to me and you said, like, "Chaz, is it hot in there?" Goofy's not gonna understand what that
Yeah,
means.
yeah, you just
Goofy's
nod.
just hot. Goofy usually takes his ear and then
Yeah.
yeah, pats his sweat off. Yeah, it's hot in this place. But so you have to maintain character integrity. So anytime like we would post on social media, which I think now the rules are even changing for this, but like you would say, please direct all comments to Goofy or please direct all comments to Cinderella, whoever you were.
I gotcha.
And if somebody commented on there like, "Jane, you look beautiful as Cinderella," Disney could fire you for that.
So I did have a friend who did Peter Pan in college, and so I heard some of these stories. I'm a little older than you, so you wouldn't have known them.
Hey, well, no.
Oh, oh, you looked
I'm
excited. I was like,
Well, yeah, yeah.
I'm
I'm
like, oh,
close.
kid.
I have a personal connection with Wendy. So my sister is friends with Wendy as we speak. So
Oh, look,
yeah,
friend of Wendy right there.
I know.
So so it sounds like when I knew this person and they were a friend of Peter Pan. How about that? They were a friend of Peter Pan.
Perfect language, yes.
They he he couldn't post anything on his MySpace, and it was a grounds for termination, and it was very strict and all of that stuff. And growing up in Florida, you hear all these stories
Mm.
of of the mouse and all those rules. So hearing you speak like this, I'm not at all shocked. So you become a friend of Goofy. I love
Yes.
that it's an all family affair, that your wife
Well,
is a friend of Cruella and your
yes.
sister's a friend of Wendy.
So, and it's cool too because giving Disney secrets, everyone.
I know
You
this interview is literally gonna just be all Disney secrets.
Disney's gonna if I go missing, you guys know why. Okay.
Bitch, I'm
Just
more worried that they're gonna come after me. They've already slapped me with an embargo or two. Yeah.
come
I'm
on,
just saying,
Disney.
Power of X-Men, you may not know this, but we are sleuths here. We do get the scoop on things, and
Yes.
we do get some interviews, and they're like, you cannot air that interview. If not, we will shut you down. If you do so, we will shut you down. I'm like, okay.
Listen, I have secrets that could shut Disney down. So they better watch it. I'm just kidding.
I'm like, bring it.
They're gonna come for my sister now and my mom. My mom still works at Disney too.
Oh my God, is
Uh,
your mom a friend of whatever? I don't know.
no,
A friend of Mary Poppins?
look her up. Look her up in the Epcot. Oh my gosh, she would love that. She would be honored. Uh, no, she's at the American Pavilion at Epcot.
Oh.
So,
Oh, I
but
love the American Pavilion at Epcot.
yeah.
Oh, listen,
So
this is all sidetracked. Go.
yeah,
Go.
exactly.
Focus. So you win friend of Goofy and
Yes.
Star
So
Wars. Second order, third order, something order.
first order.
First, I knew it was first order. Do not come at me in DMs, people. I did know it was first order. I was just teasing Chaz because we are good friends.
Yeah.
You see that? I'm
So
terrified of the Star Wars fans. Like, I don't fuck with them. Two people you
Oh,
don't fuck with. Two types of people you don't fuck with. Wanda stands, MCU Wanda stands, and Star Wars stands. Don't fuck with them.
it's true. They honestly, they're probably the same. If we're thinking about it. But yeah, it's cool though. Like they, when you get hired, they put you in this hideous singlet, and you like stand, and this thing X-rays you, and it tells the costumers and management what costumes you can fit in. So I did First Order Stormtrooper, Goofy, Captain Hook, Tigger, and I think that's it. I think that's all I did.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah,
those were your
there was one time I did a special Christmas event as a toy soldier, but it was awful because I my neck was too long for the costume. So when they put the head on, usually the head like sits on the person's shoulders. It didn't, so you could see my bare neck. So I had underneath the costume a red turtleneck, and they made me pull the turtleneck over my nose
Damn.
so that I could go out and meet people for like it was like two sets, 30-minute sets. It was it was a good time though. Never
So
did that again.
so wait, you were Goofy, friend of Goofy, friend of First Order,
You're doing better
Tigger,
than I am.
and Captain Hook.
Yes.
Who okay, off our script here. Who was the most fun to play? Who was the worst to play? And who had the best reactions to you? Like, who got the best reactions?
I will forever love my stormtrooper. Like I it was it was awesome because you had uh one thing is Disney characters cannot say no. Star Wars characters can, which is really nice. So if somebody came up and said something, I could say no. Like yeah, no,
Hmm.
we're not going to do that. You cannot touch my blaster. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. Um, so I loved doing that. I would say though, my more touching moments were with Goofy. I had people
Yes,
all the
yeah.
time, like stories that they would just come and tell Goofy everything, their whole life, their whole life drama, their family background. I had an older man. He was in a electrical chair unit, ECD as they call them, and he had Goofy come down, and he said, "Goofy, I wasn't given much time to live. Will you take care of my wife?" And I mean, I was sobbing. I was like, "Oh,
I
this
would
is awful."
cry
So
so
never
hard.
never had moments with that with a stormtrooper. So I think I much preferred the stormtrooper thing. It was fun.
But this is going to lead to my next question, which is, what's the difference between cosplaying and being a cast member at Disney? And there were some very obvious answers I knew you could give, but something like
Yes,
that, someone coming up to you, I think it's just when you're a character like Goofy, you embody something greater than yourself, and they don't.
literally.
People are not seeing. It's almost this kind of like view on psychology. People don't see the person in there; they see that idea and
Mhm.
how cathartic. And by the way, subconsciously they trust the person who is embodying that character to give those secrets. It's so beautiful. But
Yeah.
why don't you answer that question? What is the
I
difference
know
between
you're
what
good.
is the difference
Well,
between cosplaying and being a cast member at Disney?
I think there's there's more a sense of I don't know, you're kind of proud to say like, oh, I'm a performer at Disney, and everyone thinks that that's just the most amazing thing ever, and they want to hear about it and they want to know the secrets and stuff. Whereas if you're standing at a random place talking to random people and you're like, oh, I cosplay, they go, oh, okay, you're crazy. One really cool thing about performing as a character at Disney versus cosplaying. Now, cosplaying, you can be whoever you want to be. So like my dream at Disney, I wanted to be Flynn. I wanted to be friends with Flynn Rider so bad, like so bad. and I kept going to the lookalike auditions, the internal auditions, and it just was not in the cards. Um, I did get fit to be friends with Bert from Mary Poppins. Uh, that did not happen though. But I got to put on the costume, which was really fun. Um, but I wanted to be Flynn so bad. Well, it wasn't happening, so I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to cosplay him. So you can take who you want to be, and you can be it, which will follow into one of our other questions, I believe, about gender bending. But we'll get to that in time.
So, okay, so you were cosplaying long before you were at Disney. Is that how did you get into cosplaying?
Yes. So I've always loved Halloween. Dressed up, would go hard on our costumes. The church that I attended in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where I was originally from.
Oh my God, it's so
they-
funny. We were making jokes about Cincinnati, Ohio this weekend because
uh,
I kept waking up not knowing. I travel a lot for work, and I did this impromptu con in Hartford called 90s Con. And I was there with Flink, who's on the podcast, who you probably now know since you've been listening. But
yeah,
I know I'm gonna be so shady to you, bro. But I woke up and I was like, where am I? Like I went downstairs to meet him and Kevin from Words of the Witches podcast, and I was like, where are we again? Are we in Cincinnati, Ohio? Like I had no concept where we were at.
you would know if you were in Cincinnati. I call it Cincinnati.
Well, you would also know if you were in Hartford, Connecticut. No
Really?
shade for anyone from 90s Con who's listening. I told you we had a great time. We will happily go to Hartford, Connecticut again. But Hartford, Connecticut was not very pretty.
I've never been to Connecticut, so I wouldn't know.
No, there's some parts that are really nice. Anyways, I digress. Go. You're from Cincinnati. Your church,
They
you
did,
have always loved Halloween.
yes, they did trunk or treat, so I would go so hard, and it was always Disney themed.
Trunk or treat?
Trunk or treat, yeah. So they would you park your car in like the big open parking lot, and you decorate your trunk to whatever theme you want, and then if you wanted to, you could also dress up to like match your trunk or not. Like you could do whatever you wanted. I mean, our church went hard. Like I mean, we had like 5,000 people come from the community that didn't even go to the church just to come to trunk or treat. So at the first year that we did it, we did a Pirates of the Caribbean trunk, and then the second year we did Tangled, and that was my first cosplay that I had. I actually had a lady in the church. I had her. I commissioned her to make Flynn Rider's doublet, and then I went to a thrift store, found pants and stuff, found boots on eBay. Flynn did eventually get a glow up because yeah, he needed it. So, but yeah, Flynn was my first cosplay ever, technically cosplay.
I love how
Um,
you talk about him getting a glow up. That is a common denominator I see with all you cosplayers. You refer to your costumes, that persona, as their own individual, and it
yes,
threw me off. It may have been Demanda, it may have been Jason. I don't know who it was, but they were like, "Oh yeah, she's getting revamped," and I was like, "You're getting revamped?" And they're like, "No, the persona, the costume." I
yes.
love that about this sub community. I am so fascinated by cosplayers and everything you all do.
Hey, and some people take it to the next level too. Like
Oh,
I
I
would
know. Oh, I know.
there are some like I'm like, how did you make that? There's no way. Like, you stole that from the movie set. I know it.
So, so that was your first cosplaying experience, and you've obviously grown a lot since then. And we talk all the time, but for folks at home who are listening, your cosplay, I enjoy it so very much. And, did you steal it from a set? I think you embody a lot of your characters quite a bit. Again, I'm going to cite your Doctor Strange. I'm going to cite some of the other ones you've done. I'm curious though, what are some of the challenges you face when you're cosplaying, or creating cosplay? I hear about the cosplay crunch, the con crunch.
Oh my word. I was just talking to, oh
I love
gosh,
that
I
you
don't know
just
his
said, "Oh my
handle.
word." I love that you just said, "Oh my word." You're such a well-mannered individual.
Listen,
I'll be like,
listen,
"Oh fuck."
well, hey, and you do that. Like, it does not offend me at all. But I'm like the Captain America of people. I'm like, language, language, language. Like, if I ever become a manager somewhere, my employees are gonna hate me.
So I did another podcast like a year or so ago called Masters of Comic Books with Cole Lau, who I love very much, and Cole is still very much a part of my life. But the first episode we recorded together, he is like a good boy. I was cussing the entire time, and he edited that podcast and he sent the playbacks to me. And every time I cussed, it was that beep noise, beep, and I'm like, what the fuck? I got so angry. I'm like, how dare you censor me? It's taken me a while to understand it's more of a character trait and
Hey.
vices for a vice for some people.
Yeah. No, I won't judge too hard. What were we even talking about?
Okay. So no, you're cosplaying. What are some? You alluded to this. Did we hit record when you were telling me about what happened with Black Widow and you were making the edits to it and it kind of you cut
Yes,
to? Okay. So what are
I
some
did.
of what are talk to me about more about those challenges?
So my biggest cosplay fail, let's talk about that. I am a huge Pirates of the Caribbean fan. As you've seen, I've done gender bent Elizabeth Swann. Probably one of my favorite characters ever. I love Elizabeth Swann. So I was like, I think it's time that I do a male character. I'm going to do James Norrington, but when he's like really drunk and crazy in Dead Man's Chest. And I spent $200 on this beautiful coat that I had to rip up and destroy because he's weathered and piratish. So is that even a word? Piratish? If it's not, I just made it a word. Um, so I had to strip it of its color because it was black and it needed to be navy. I did that whole process and I never read the tag on the garment and it said do not wash, dry clean only. So after I got done stripping of its color, making it the color that it needed to be, the coat fit my sister, who is 5 feet tall. I'm 6'1". She's 5 feet tall, and it fit her perfectly, except for the lining didn't shrink. So the lining was hanging out of the coat. So that was a horrible, horrible mistake. And I still want to eventually do Norrington at some point, but I just haven't been able to bring myself to it because it made me sick.
You,
So that
bro,
was.
you are
Oh wait,
speaking
I have another one.
gibberish to me. I'm like I don't think I've seen a Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
How are we friends? I'm just kidding.
And we're good friends too. I mean,
No.
we've kikied IRL and we talk like almost every day. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Jeff, my husband Jeff is the bigger Pirates stan than I am. And I think the one and only time I've seen a Pirates movie, I saw it at his college dorm back in like
I love that.
2001 or whenever it came
If
out.
if you watch them, just watch 1 through 3. That's all you really need to watch.
Wait, which one's the one with Dick Grayson in it?
Okay,
Friend
that
him,
one's 5, and it's really good. It's good in its own way, but like it doesn't have Keira Knightley in it. So
Okay, Keira Knightley is a god.
exactly. Okay, I do have another good fail
Go,
story, which
go.
will relate to this podcast. Sorry, X-Men fans, we've not been talking about X-Men.
They're
Um,
used to it.
I
I'm like,
was
this bitch always goes off the rocker. So they're used to it. Don't worry.
I was creating my wife's X-Men Evolution Jean over your left shoulder
Oh, she
there.
looks so good.
And
I
uh,
regrammed her photo the other day and
yes,
everyone, I got so many hearts on it. But
I
like,
told
who's
her,
that?
I was like, people are loving this photo of you. And she's like, that's awesome. She doesn't have an Instagram, everyone. I'm so
She's like,
sorry.
that's awesome. Now let's talk about somebody else. Let's talk about
Yeah,
the new house we're moving into.
literally. So I was making her, we can't see it in this photo, but Jean's suit is like one piece. It has like the feet connected and everything. Well, obviously, it's hard to find that. So I was trying to make her shoes. And I looked at this YouTube tutorial and it said to take swim shoes with rubber soles, cut the bottom of the sole off, and then you can glue it to like a full body suit or whatever. That way you can walk, not, hurt your feet and stuff. I was like, oh, this is cool. And it said, but be careful to not glue your foot into the shoe. And so I told Emily as I was, putting the super glue in the rubber part, I was like, don't let your toes go over the sole of the shoe, the like little padded inside thing. And she's like, okay. We waited a few minutes. She goes to pull her foot out. All 5 of her toes are super glued to the shoe.
Oh
And
no.
yes, and I ended up I was kind of freaking out. Ended up having to cut the costume, like cut the fabric off of her foot, and then we had to like carry her to the sink, and we put like um nail polish remover. We used Dawn dish soap because that sometimes helps with stuff. And I mean, it was awful. I thought she was gonna have to go to the hospital,
Oh my
and
god.
it was awful. So that was my
Sorry.
probably
I
my
was trying to
biggest fail.
cosplay my wife as Jean Grey from X-Men Evolution, and now we're in the emergency room.
Literally. So that was not fun. But yeah, so there are those fail moments, and you live and learn, honestly. And like right now, for Christmas, I bought myself a sewing machine, and I'm teaching myself how to sew. I've done hand sewing before, and it's not that great. I've had a couple people ask if they could commission me to make them stuff, which I am honored. The fact that you like my stuff that much that you want me to make you something says a lot. It makes me feel good, but you do not want my stuff. Like, it if you saw the inside of my X-Men Evolution Cyclops armor, you'd be like, this is crap. You just can't see it because it's on my body. um, but I mean, like it's held together with duct tape and crazy stuff. So I know it's like not good, durable stuff, which is why I'm like, no, I don't want to make you anything because it's probably not worth the money.
What do most people ask you to make out of curiosity?
I had a friend ask me to do X-Men Evolution Cyclops, which I'm thinking about giving him a glow up as well. I have been
How
working
does he
out.
get a glow up? How
Well,
does Scott Summers in X-Men Evolution get a glow up?
he's perfect. But mine, I don't think my chest piece fits anymore. I've been hitting the gym really hard,
Oh, we've noticed.
trying to look good for Gala Gambit, but so I don't think the chest piece fits me anymore. It'll probably like sit up on my shoulders, so I'm gonna have to redo that. But I think I have some ideas of how to make it better. We'll see.
Where are you debuting Hellfire Gala Gambit?
That's an excellent question. I keep seeing all these people post about WonderCon and DragonCon and New York City Comic Con. Latverian Lad is trying to get me to come, and I'm like, dude, I want to so bad. I would love to, but as you just mentioned earlier, we bought a house, and now we're broke. So we're house broke, as we're saying.
Oh God,
But
and just wait till you start doing renovations
I
and all that
know,
stuff. Everything comes at you. I keep getting all these bills, and I'm like, was this worth it? I don't know. Maybe it would have been better to be a renter, but
yeah,
I'm sure it'll all come out better in the end. But that's my own baggage. No,
exactly.
listen, Sean. Here's the thing, Sean. I have been hounding him to come to WonderCon because I was like, you have to come to WonderCon. Everyone's going to be there. And he can't make it, sadly. So we are planning on New York Comic Con, but we are going to MCM to see him and London Comic Con. So you should come to MCM.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
We're trying to get Hammy to come. Planet X-Men's going to come. That's a
That'd
neat
be
place
so
to come
cool.
to. You're like, I'm still house before. It doesn't
Still
matter.
house broke. Yeah. And if I told Emily, I was like, hey, we're gonna go to a Comic Con in London, she'd be like, sign me up. I want to go to Europe. So I make it sound like she doesn't like cosplaying. She does. She does enjoy it, but um I drag her along. Like,
So
here, put this on.
what is it about Marvel specifically in the cosplays there? I mean, you were mentioning that, you've migrated your name to House of M cosplay.
Yes.
You kind of lean in more towards like Hellfire Gambit, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, Cyclops. What is it about Marvel do you think that stands out above something like Superman or DC or other Disney characters?
I it's so funny. So when I first got into superheroes, I was a huge Justice League fan. Like I watched the animated series,
Mhm.
and I Hawk Girl and Flash were like my two favorite characters.
Agree.
Which I notice Hammy does an amazing Hawkman, like
Does he?
perfect. But
Hammy, if you're
I
listening, I'm not paying attention to your cosplay. I asked Hammy today when I was talking to him, I'm like, have you ever done a villain before? He like looked at me. I was
oh my gosh, yeah, I don't
well,
even know.
Hammy was one of the few people. Hammy, Planet X-Men, and No More Mutants were three accounts I followed on my personal way before I even
Mm.
did podcasting. And they've been around for such long. They're so immensely talented. We rag on Hammy here out of pure love and because I just saw him a couple hours ago.
Yes, I saw that.
He's a
Um,
wonderful human being.
yes. So I let's see. I don't even remember how old I was when I first saw X-Men, and I was like, these people are amazing. And it was the Fox X-Men one, and I fell in love. I was like, I don't know who these people are, but I love them and I want to get to know them better. So at that time, I feel like the time that I got into it, X3 was just about to come out. So I was a really late bloomer. Um, I fell hard. Then I eventually found out about X-Men Evolution, and my sister and I loved that. We would binge that, and then the last thing that I saw was the animated series,
Oh,
which
so you've seen the animated series.
I have, but I just saw it for the first time in its entirety. I think it was during COVID, I
Okay.
believe, when we were
I
all
don't know
under
why I
lockdown.
thought you
Disney
didn't
Plus
see
came
the
on.
animated series.
I have,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Okay, that
So,
opens up the door for
but
more
if
spotlights and guest spots.
But see, like, if you guys said, I'm going to make up something random, like, don't you love that scene in season 3, episode 7, titled, Scott marries Jean? Like, I would not know what you were talking about. I'd be like,
Beyond Good and
yeah,
Evil season 4.
yeah, like literally. See, I don't even
Well,
know.
I listen, I'm terrible on the spot with things. I'm also a huge Charm stan, but speaking with like Kevin from Words of the Witches this weekend, I'm like, like
I saw
I
that
apparently forgot everything.
you were saying a season and an episode. He was like spitting them out.
He
I
can
was like,
just do it. I can't even do that with X-Men and stuff like that. I still have to Google things in between, like when I'm talking to people, just Google issue numbers and stuff like
yeah,
that. But Kevin, uh, and you have this too when you're talking about cosplaying. Kevin has this way of talking about Charmed that makes you want to know more, just like how you're talking now about your cosplaying experience and your passion for it. I want to know more about it. And that's a rare talent to invite people into a fandom versus we talk about this all the time. People like push you out and gatekeep in lieu of just like building a nice vibe, you know.
yes, yeah.
So was Marvel really special
Oh,
because
yes, yes.
you
So,
first saw the X-Men X3.
yes. So I started with X-Men, the Fox movies, and then got into X-Men Evolution, and then saw the animated series. And X-Men quickly became my favorite superhero team. Um, Even more so than like Avengers and the Justice League. I know it's different companies or whatever, but
No, that's fine.
I
It's
just
all
love how they're so unique. How each character has different powers. Like in Justice League, Superman and Wonder Woman are almost kind of like they're like so similar. Whereas like you have Jean who has telekinesis, and Storm controls the weather. Cyclops shoots lasers out of his eyes. Like I don't know. I loved the diversity of their powers and who they were as people. I thought that was really cool.
Well, it's so interesting hearing you speak like that because growing up in the 90s, the X-Men were king. I mean, the X-Men were Avengers level, in their heyday.
Mm,
Obviously, that took a massive backseat when you had, the rise of the MCU, and hopefully we'll reclaim those glory days. But
please.
yeah, I mean, I think with the X-Men is here's the thing where I ultimately have boiled down the X-Men. X-Men comic books, whether it was from the 80s or 90s, whether it was Evolution or the traditional X-Men animated series, the source material organically was always writing up to its audience. So
Mm,
you intuitively knew there was more to these characters, there was some allegory behind there, and you can project yourself into those characters. They weren't
mm,
gods, they were people just like you and I, and they faced a lot of issues. Goth
mm,
Rogue in X-Men Evolution, she's a very empathetic character. She invokes pathos. Jean as well, Cyclops. They're very beautiful in that
yeah.
way. So yeah, of course, the X-Men, I till this day, like the X-Men are way better than the Avengers and the Justice League. Canonically, they're supposed to be more powerful than the X-Men, but the X-Men just have a bit more of a star power that I don't think a lot of people acknowledge in today's world.
Right. I was also, and I think another thing I thought of while we were talking about that, how you can relate to them so much is I was kind of bullied in junior high, going into high school, and I think just seeing the way that the X Men were treated, I was like, oh my word, I know how that feels. So that was another thing that drew me to them.
Well, we've said this before on the podcast, and we were just talking about it with Lenore a couple days ago. Lenore Zan, the voice of Rogue from the animated series. There was always when you were being bullied, when you were sort of being marginalized as a kid, and you really couldn't understand why you were being bullied and stuff like that. You can always slip into the fantasy that there is a school out there for people
Hmm.
like you, and it's unbiased, it's all love, and you're part of the circle, and you're part of this very complicated, dynamic family that's a little bit bigger than what you are. And I think when you think of ideas of community, of religion, that's sort of what you aim. It's to
Mm.
be part of something larger than yourself and to feel that kind of love. So the X-Men just hit the right marks with that. What can we say? That's
Yes.
why that's why I think Wanda in the Avengers stands out, because Wanda is
Yes.
a deeply flawed, deeply hurt individual, and you can relate to her. But wait, we're getting off track here. Wait, because we
It's a
we have
good track,
we
though.
have another section dedicated specifically just to X-Men and your views on X-Men. But Chaz, tell me what is the most favorite cosplay you have done? If you had to pat yourself on the back and be like, you know what, that's pretty good.
Okay, I think
Let
people
me
are
know.
gonna boo me on this, but I love Prince Hans from Frozen,
I
and
love Frozen.
I debuted him. I debuted him at a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, and Hans does not do meet and greets at Disney. He does now in like Tokyo or something, some random
You do
place.
do a good Prince Hans. I had to Google him.
That's okay. It's
I've
okay.
seen it. I've
Uh,
seen it. I know this character is from Frozen. I know when I've seen you post it, it's a
it's
Frozen character.
it's female Iceman's movie. You've seen it maybe?
I have. I
um,
have. I do listen
but
to Let It Go quite a more times than I probably should admit.
yes, I
It's
it's
a
a good
beautiful
song.
song. I'm
Adele
sorry.
does it.
It's like I can't sing, but I'm never going back. The past is in the past. That is a beautiful line. A
Yes,
100% beautiful line.
that perfect girl is gone. uh,
That's what I say every time I wake up and look in the mirror. I'm like, that perfect girl is gone.
uh,
Anyways,
but yeah, so I debuted him at Not So Scary, and I Disney probably I'm shocked they didn't kick me out. I could barely walk. Like I had so many people coming up saying, "We know you're not a real character, but can we take a picture with you? Can we take a picture with you? Can you like get a picture with my daughter?" And I'm like, "Yes, but I'm not," because you have to like they're very very strict on like if you're coming as a guest, you are a guest. You're not a princess or a prince or whatever. Um, so I was kind of on edge the whole time. I did it to myself. I went as a cool Disney villain. Um, but I love that costume. Which
yeah,
thinking
you look
about it now,
amazing in it.
I don't know if it would fit anymore.
Oh, well, that's because you've been going to the gym because you're jacked
It's
as fuck now.
because I'm trying to get big. But yeah,
Gotta
so
do you gotta do Gambit,
Hans,
Mon ami.
yes, that's right.
Wait, can you do a
I
Gambit? Can you say Mon ami in a
Mona.
Gambit?
I don't know. I
Oh my God, I love how you're
I
like, oh, I don't know. And you just said it so perfectly. So
really.
so
Uh,
seductively, so confident, so Gambit. And you're like,
uh,
oh wait, but I don't know.
um, yeah, I don't know. I love reading in the comics. Like instead of saying this, he says this.
This.
This and that.
I
And
mean
I
the
like
most
it.
iconic line for me in Gambit in the animated series and other parts I've read him is everyone can relax. Gambit is here.
Yes, I love it. I was actually I was being a nerd, and I do not remember the name of all the different guys who voiced him in like Wolverine in the X-Men animated series, X-Men Evolution. But how they each had a different take on occasion accent, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So,
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Chris Potter is the OG one
mm,
that did it for the X-Men animated series, and he is like much like Lenore Zan, voice of some people's childhood. You weren't born when when that was airing, but
I was, I
uh,
was, I was like in between 0 and 1.
you were in between 0 and 1. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
Wait, okay, wait. What's the actual date that it started?
October 31st, 1992.
I see. I didn't come until December 7th.
Oh, you're a
So,
fellow Sagittarius. I keep forgetting
yeah,
that. That's why you and I, we hit it off because we are
exactly.
crazy Sagittariuses. Well, I'm definitely emblematic of a crazy Sagittarius. But okay, so is there a specific cosplay that you would love to do? Let's play this alternate world where you have an unlimited budget.
Mm,
You're not house poor.
no
You,
passport.
you took that money that you put on a down payment on a very beautiful house. You've shown me the house. It's gorgeous, so gorgeous.
Thank you.
But you're gonna invest that money in cosplay instead.
Okay. So I actually, my dream cosplay
Mhm.
is Captain Phasma. I love Captain Phasma. Gwendolyn Christie, amazing. And you probably don't know who I'm talking about, do you?
I I can see it in my head. She was in the first episode 8, is it? And
7.
she's
Yours
walking
was.
7, the one with Ray. The one with Ray, right?
Mm,
7, 8, 9.
Does she ever meet Ray? I don't even know.
But no, it's episode 7. So
Oh yeah.
with
Yes,
Ray.
yes, yes.
And
Sorry.
she's walking through like all the fire, and she has the
Yes.
cape billowing. And
Yes.
yeah, I
Oh,
know.
she's so
Yeah,
fierce.
yeah.
I love
I was
it.
gonna say, then she says, "We will finish what we started," but that was actually,
Yeah.
oh my God, why
Just
am I forgetting his name? I did watch these movies and I did enjoy them, and I was obsessed for like a hot minute. It was
yeah.
Kylo Ren who said that.
I love Phasma.
Yeah.
She's my favorite. So I have the helmet. It's not painted,
Mhm.
and I have the armor, and it's trimmed but not fit to my body yet, and it's not painted. It is in a box. So I was kind of waiting to finish that once I got a house. Yay. So maybe next year I can try to work on her and get her finished. So that is my dream cosplay, but I am trying to make it a reality. It's just taking years. So I think I got the armor for Christmas. It was from some shop on Etsy in 2019, I
Wait, so I'm
think.
sorry, you bought the armor, but it's not fitted to you. How do you fit armor to your? That sounds expensive. And I
It's
only say that because I'm renovating a kitchen now, and I'm like everything's
yeah,
expensive. So
it
like, how do
looks,
you
I
do
mean,
that?
it's a process. So the armor is not fiberglass. I don't know what it is. Um, it's super breakable. So like if you fell in this stuff, it would probably crack. Yeah, but it's really expensive. It's stupid expensive, but it just comes like they take a sheet of plastic and they press it into like whatever mold it needs to be in, and then they just ship it to you, and it still has like the plastic, like the flat plastic edges around the actual armor piece, and you got to take shears and just cut it out. I mean, my hands were so messed up after spending hours of trimming this armor out from like its little frame. uh, so it's all cut, but I have to like take a Dremel and do the edges, and so they're not going to cut me when I'm wearing it, and then I gotta figure out how to piece it all on and take it off. Which I will say, I feel like working at Disney and wearing their version of the Stormtroopers costume kind of gives me the upper hand because I know some little tips and secrets on how to make things stay
Oh,
and
that's such an obvious
fit.
question I should have put on our doc sheet here. Like, did you learn anything from
Yeah,
wait, was it what do you call that team? The Imagineering
I feel like
Costumeering
yeah, there's probably I mean
Wardrobe
there's
wardrobe.
yeah, they call it costuming,
Yeah.
but there is a specific
And I
name for
only
the
know this because I grew up
lines.
in Florida, and
Yeah.
they always had a specific name for that team. So did you pick any get any tips? Obviously you did.
Yes, I also took a piece of costume.
Gasp.
I'm
That's
gonna be
it.
put on Disney's blacklist now. But they were gonna throw it away. In my defense, it
You're a good
was
person.
it was the black jacket that we wore under our stormtrooper armor, and I was like, I can use this for my Phasma. It literally says Storm First Order Stormtrooper slash Phasma, and then it has like the barcode and stuff. Um, and so I I did take that, and I'm going to use it in my costume. But it's a little bit sun bleached, so I think I might have to try to dye it black again and give it new life. But I love it because I'm like, okay, this is an actual costume piece that I wore at Disney. It says Phasma on it. Like I'm keeping this. So I snuck it out on my last day. And I was gonna say, back to like Gambit being my favorite hero. I was like, I've never stolen anything. And then all of a sudden I'm talking now and I'm like, oh wait, I have. I am a
You have a
thief.
little gambit in you.
I do have a little Gambit in me.
A little gambit and a little Sagittarius. That's such a
Exactly.
Sagittarius move. Oh, I thought you were throwing this away, so I was just going to keep it for
I'm just
myself.
gonna keep it.
I was going to keep it like you were throwing it away. Fair game there. So maybe this answers this other question I had, which is the house is burning. You have to pick one cosplay to save, assuming everything else is safe. That you have sentimental.
Yeah.
What do you save? Is it this cosplay that you bought a couple years ago?
I'm actually gonna say Gambit. I would grab Gambit first.
Okay.
Because my chest plate, which I've seen a couple other cosplayers, I can't name any off the top of my head. Uh, ooh, Luigi, something Luigi. He does a
Yeah,
Gambit.
Super Luigi, friend of the
Yes.
podcast
Okay.
too. We love Super
Yes.
Luigi.
Okay. He's amazing. I don't know him personally, but I love
He
his
became
costume.
like BFFs with my brother over the summer, and they went to the She-Hulk premiere together. And I'm like,
That's hilarious.
thanks for the invite,
Yeah.
But no, they met at one of the San Diego Comic Con parties, and Luigi has been so wonderful. Shout out to Luigi. Really
Yeah.
awesome human being.
Well, I was gonna say I think he has the same like chest armor piece that I have. I bought it from a guy in Ukraine on Etsy. It was pretty expensive, and now that shop is no longer available. Yes. So I have people ask me all the time, "Where'd you get your armor? Where'd you get your armor?" And I'm like, "I wish I would link you up if there was a link, but there is not. It's gone." So, but that piece of armor, man, it is intense. It is the most uncomfortable thing to wear. Um, it has no back, so if I took the coat off, you would see like the straps holding it to my back, and it's not very nice looking. But it is a nice piece of armor. I think it's fiberglass. So, but yeah, Super Luigi has it too. I just saw it and I was like, hey, that's the same one.
So one of the things I love about your cosplaying is how you embody all the characters, and a lot of the characters you do, you gender bend a lot of those characters. So I'm curious about your approach with gender bending and how you go about selecting that character you want to gender bend, and what are your thoughts when you start putting together a character like Black Widow and you're translating
Mm,
that more into a male form when you do something like Wanda, which I mean you absolutely kill. So I'm
thank you.
curious, what elements do you lift? What do you keep? What is sort of, the Chaz mindset going into it?
So I always first I I I love I would say majority of my favorite characters are female. Uh, for example, Star Wars Captain Phasma, female. Pirates of the Caribbean Elizabeth Swann, female. So I've
Wait,
always loved
X-Men.
Wanda. Like
X-Men.
even when
Well,
I
we
was
love Wanda,
little,
but wait, who's your favorite X-woman?
Storm.
All right,
I love Storm.
that's okay.
Yes.
Good answer. Good answer. I,
She's,
I
she's
was expecting you to say God Queen, but Storm, I mean, listen, it's Storm,
I do
a
love Jean, and
literal goddess.
honestly, used to when I was younger, I would say if I could have anyone's powers, I'd want Jean's.
And we all want Jean's
But
powers.
it slowly changed to Storms. If I could have anyone's powers, I would totally choose Storm. But
Anyways, go.
yes.
And we are also big
So
Wanda stands here, obviously.
yes. So I always loved Wanda, Scarlet Witch as well. And so my thing when I'm looking at it is I don't want it to be an exact copy paste of her costume, whoever it is. So I'm like, what would it be like if it was a male wearing this outfit or a man wearing this outfit? So I will try to, I'll usually draw a little bit of a design and tweak something. So like in my, I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, okay, Wanda. Um, she has the skirt that goes underneath her like her top. So I am going to change it to a cloak, like a really big, like long coat. And I actually kind of got the inspiration from Stephen Gordon's X-Men Evolution Wanda. She has that long coat, and I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Goth
So I
Wanda.
kind of
We always
yeah,
talk about Goth Rogue, but it was Goth Wanda
never
as
got
well.
Wanda, which I'll be honest, my least favorite version of Wanda.
Yeah, I mean, it's a forgettable version.
Oh, she is cringy, but for me at least. But I did like that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna kind of pull that into this design. Speaking of which, glow up. I have a new Scarlet Wizard, as I'm calling him, um, top that I cannot wait to take pictures in. I want to so bad. So
Oh, I can't
it's
wait to
is
see it.
the top that I bought. It was a last minute Halloween costume, and it was like $30, I think, on GameStop. And as a women's extra large, I had to safety pin all the excess fabric in the back so that it fit me right. And the sleeves still were even like up to here because it was a woman's extra large and I got long arms. So totally upgraded Wanda or Scarlet Wizard's top, and I'm really excited to wear it someday.
Listen, we're so excited to see you wear it. I mean, you kill it every time you post a Wanda, I'm regramming the heck out of that. So, see,
Well,
I'm
thank you.
respecting my guess. I was gonna say a really bad word, but
Oh, look at you. Hey,
someone said this on the YouTube page. They left a comment, which we don't have a large presence on YouTube. So when a troll like inevitably shows up, they're like, "Wow, have you realized you parody you like parrot the people you have on the podcast and you change your voice based off
oh
of
my
your
word.
guess?"
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, I think
Was
I
it?
posted that and I was like, "Fuck you."
You did. Yeah, that's funny. Hey,
Hey,
that's
you're
not a bad thing.
hospitable. listen, you're being hospitable. You have a guest here, so okay.
Exactly. I feel like it probably makes the guests feel more welcome too. Like, oh, I can connect with this person, but we know each other. So
Crazy Sagittarius, always trying to parrot
yes.
someone else. All right,
Well,
so
so gender
okay,
bending.
yeah,
Yeah, I like to just kind of tweak it in some way, shape, or form to make
I,
it my own.
yeah. Well, I mean, you clearly make it your own. It's really, really great, and we love it. So,
Thank you.
why don't we migrate to some X-Men questions? You've kind of
Yeah,
already sprinkled, some
yeah,
responses here,
I've
which
had to sprinkle it in to keep people interested.
so you kind of already mentioned this earlier that you got into the X-Men during the time that X-Men was about to come out. Had you not heard of the X-Men before? Were they really just you're like, who are these people? Like you had never heard of the comic or the animated series. So wild to me.
Yes. So this is you're gonna laugh so hard at me.
Let's hear it.
So I was actually at my uncle's house and I was looking through his movie collection. When I pulled out this DVD and it said Evolution is here, I was like, didn't even know what it was at the time. So then I like fast forward a few years later, I was talking to someone. I was like, yeah, I really want to watch those X-Men movies. They look so cool. And my aunt was like, oh, we own those. And I was like, you do? And she's like, yeah, they're downstairs. And so I went down there and I like pulled him through. Well, he didn't have the actual like full case for X1. It was just the one part that said the evolution is here or something like that. So I ended up popping it in and loved it. I was like, yes, this is my style. Uh, I was trying to think of who my favorite character was. I think Jean was my favorite character in X1 Famke Jensen.
Oh God, of course. Famke Johnson. Yes,
Yeah.
we love her. I saw her in the West Village with Planet X-Men back in June. I've ran into her several times in New York. I saw her at Nobu once, and this is back when I was working in book publishing, and I was with an author, and literally the author's like talking to me about their book, and like it's like I'm having the conversation, and I literally go like this, and I go like this to the author, and I just get up and I go to Famke, and she was so sweet.
More important things.
More
God,
important, I'm sorry about your book deal here, but Famke Johnson just walked in. She was
that's
very
crazy.
so sweet. But okay, so your favorite X-Man was Jean initially. It's turned into Storm. But listen, we're a salty AF podcast here. Who's your least favorite X-Men? Who's an X-Men that when you see they get on the screen, you're like, fuck. Or I'm sorry, bleep, bleep, bleep. Bleep.
Stupid. No, I'm just kidding.
Stupid.
So this is remember I told you I was probably gonna be canceled when I say this.
Oh God. Let's hear it.
Jubilee.
Oh no, I've called Jubilee a brat on this podcast
I
times
can't
before.
stand her. It's so bad. I don't know. I really struggle though with like young, annoying characters. I'm sure in the comics she probably grows up and is an amazing person.
No,
And
she doesn't.
actually, the last couple episodes of the animated series, she was starting to grow on me again. I was like, okay, she's not as annoying as she used to be. But yeah, I couldn't deal with it.
Jubilee suffers from. It's interesting because Gambit, I would say, is a character that's more style than substance.
Mm,
However, it's such a well done style that the substance kind of comes through in a story that probably doesn't have it. You can still like Gambit, you can still empathize with him.
mm,
Jubilee is hyper 90s Bart Simpson style, like written. And I mean, obviously not as crass and as a troublemaker as Bart, but she definitely fills that role of 90s like bad child. And we read the Phalanx Covenant for book club a couple of years ago. I can't believe I'm saying a couple of years ago that we've been doing this podcast that long, but when we did book club initially, Phalanx Covenant was what was our read, and Jubilee plays a major role there. And the
mm.
things she says to Emma Frost, bro, I'm like, you you just can't talk like that. I don't know if it's just my age, but she goes to like Emma Frost, who why would you ever talk back to Emma Frost? I'm sorry, Emma Frost is in the room. You bow. That's what you do.
Exactly.
But she said something to like Emma. She's here like, "Oh, Frosty, are you gonna be triggered right now because the Hellions were murdered and you don't know how to save your children or your students?" I'm like, "How dare you talk to Emma Frost like that?" And they go to Emma Frost's like safe house in San Francisco, and she's here like, "This is nicer than the TGI Fridays I always go to," or something like that. No sé qué. And I'm like, This character's so annoying. Like
Yes.
she pisses me off. She is, and then we have to go. We have to suffer through her vampire stage, unfortunately, in the
Yeah, I
comics.
don't know anything about that. So I
The more you don't know, the better. But she does get better, not because she ages, because the X-Men really don't age in the comics,
mm,
but because during like Generation X and later stories that come in the comic books, she is written a bit better, and
good.
it's just not as annoying. There are some characters that I will die on a hill of that I'm like they're annoying as fuck, like Hate Pride, Kitty Pride. I think it's an overrated character and is my least favorite. But Jubilee is one of those that I like Jubilee. I think when she's written well, she's written really
Mm.
well. But I can see where people will be annoyed by her because I've been annoyed by her in the
I
past.
also I one time read this fan fiction and it was Gambit and Jubilee and I was like, okay, I love this. Like he was kind of like you could tell whoever wrote this fan fiction, I don't remember. Uh, she kind of had like a little crush on Gambit, but it was so cute because he was like fathering her almost. I don't know. I was like, okay, this is cute. I can deal with this, but again, I don't know. She would be my least favorite.
So why? So we don't really have many people on the podcast that are such huge stands of X-Men Evolution over X-Men the animated series. We there's a lot of love for X-Men Evolution in our
Oh
community,
yeah,
but when you put people on the spot, they're like, no, 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 no. We the animated series is the best. I happen to think there's a lot of things that make Evolution better than the animated series and vice versa. But I'm
yeah.
curious from you, why is X-Men Evolution such a great show, and why is it better than the animated series?
I oh, that's a tough one. Um,
Putting
I
you on the spot
feel
there. This is a real
yeah,
answer that's going to get you canceled.
it's true. No, I love Scott in this series because he's still that leader, still trying to learn, uh, still makes mistakes, but owns them. And I feel like in an animated series, Scott can kind of be a little bit of a what's a not bad word
I can say any bad
to
words.
describe him.
How about a stick in the
Uh,
mud?
there we go. That rhymes with the word that I was thinking, stick. But uh, I, yeah, I don't know. I was like, man, Scott is so cool in this. And then honestly, all the characters, I just love like their designs.
Oh, the
Again,
designs are beautiful.
Stephen Gordon did an amazing job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, and I
You know, and
love,
Stephen Gordon, I've been talking to him on DMs or I've tagged him, he's commented on things. I had to get him on the show. I've
yes,
always had
do
an
it.
idea that we would do an X-Men Evolution like season where we like are able to do a deep dive, but
That would be amazing. Yeah. Well, I loved his designs. They were really awesome. And then I think just the story in general, how it played out. Uh, I feel like there were certain things in the animated series that they would like bounce around to different stories, and I would be a little confused. Like the scene where I animated fans are going to be like, "How does he not know what he's talking about?" The episode where they go to like the Age of Apocalypse, maybe, and Storm has her mohawk and she's in love with Wolverine, and they're an item. I was like, "What is happening? Where did this even come from?"
we've
So
talked
like,
so much about One Man's Worth on the this last weekend because that was a
yeah.
so from a production standpoint, just so you know, it
Mhm.
is a precursor to Age of Apocalypse, meaning that um the Leewalds, Eric and Julia Leewald, who Eric is the showrunner, Julia Leewald was a writer, they came up with the idea of One Man's Worth, and Marvel liked it so much they brought it over to the editorial side. But because comics editorial is faster than animation, we got Age of Apocalypse first and then One Man's Worth. But originally, One
Uh,
Man's Worth came first, and it was
that makes so much
so
sense.
that's why you would probably be a little lost because it is it's a first of its kind in terms of telling
Mhm.
that story.
And to like talk about how like one thing I love more about uh, the animated series versus X-Men Evolution, I love obviously Rogue and you said Lenore Zan, like she is perfect. But I do love Goth Rogue as well. And then Nightcrawler. I also like Nightcrawler better in the animated series.
Well, he's given a lot more. I can't remember. Did they lean into his religious
Yeah,
tendencies in
which I think is
Evolution?
why. I think
Did
that's
they?
why. Oh no, not in Evolution. In Evolution, I don't think he mentions religion
No.
or
Oh, I love. So we've talked about this before on the podcast. I don't know if
Mm.
you and I have talked about it.
I
I
think so.
think the scene with him and Mystique, when he's talking to her about God and religion, and Mystique's like, I don't deserve your prayers, and she gets shot,
Mm.
and she pushes him out of the way to save Kurt, and then she looks at him, she goes prayers, and then it flashes back to her when she throws baby Nightcrawler off the waterfall, but it's a close up of her eyes and she's crying, and for a character like Mystique to have that
Mhm.
emotion and to show that emotion was so beautiful. But
Yes.
I think I just talked about it in another episode. I said the prayers. She falls over the way
Yes,
the voice
I
actress
remember
says
them.
that. She's like prayers. Hysterical.
I actually saw I don't have TikTok anymore. I used to have TikTok. But I had saved a video that somebody made and it was like, anybody remember that time that Wolverine got saved? And they, showed Nightcrawler talking to Wolverine, and then it shows him, Wolverine, in the church praying, and Rogue gets touched by seeing him do that. And I was like, this is so cool. Like I love that. So that's one thing I think the animated series did better. But um, yeah, back to X-Men Evolution.
So would you have wanted like another season of X-Men Evolution?
100%. I was actually just talking to Emily about that tonight. I was like, man, if they could have continued, like, I'm so glad we're getting X-Men 97.
Mhm.
But if they announced a season, was it season 3 or
I think it would
5?
be season 4. Let's see. Let's look.
Season 7. I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna throw a
Season
random
7 or
number.
something. I think it put 5 on our doc sheet, but I think it would be yeah, it would be season 5 actually. Yeah, so
Okay.
season 5. Yeah.
Yeah, season 4 was really short, I think.
Yeah, it was 9 episodes.
Yeah.
Super short. I remember that too.
Yeah. So
It was the
they gave us
Apocalypse story.
season
That's where
5.
they were finishing up everything that was going on with Apocalypse.
And like the season finale or the series finale, when it showed like Professor X having that vision and seeing, like some of our friends will become enemies, and it shows Jean turning into Phoenix. I wanted that so bad.
Oh, we
So,
all
so
wanted
bad.
that. And Magneto leading the New Mutants, and
Yes.
X-23, Laura
Yeah.
/ Wolverine joining the X-Men, Rogue having the power of flight. And for me,
Yeah.
it's always going to be when he's here, like, many challenges still await us, but whatever, comes our way, the X-Men will always be there. And then flashes to Project Wide Awake and Nimrod coming online. For me, that gives me chills.
Yes.
It's going to be tough for the X-Men. It's not going to be an easy road, but they will navigate through it, and that's a beautiful ending.
I also thought, with all the like the hype around Sinister right now, I would love to have seen how they would have done that in X-Men Evolution. That would have been really cool.
It would have been nice to see Sinister there, but
And we never saw Emma either in
no.
X-Men.
And I think did Steven draw an Emma and a Psylocke that was fan made? And it's been long rumored that those were original concept designs for a season 5, but I think they were just commissioned from a fan to draw an X-Men Evolution style.
I'm gonna go research these when we get off.
I can't believe you didn't know that. I think I've posted it. I think I've posted it before, but it could be before you were part of the Power of X-Men familia.
Before Chaz.
BC before Chaz. There we go. There's no podcast. There's no Power of X-Men community before Chaz.
No.
So can I tell you that Valley Girl Kitty is probably my favorite incarnation of Kitty. And the very first episode I had ever done podcasting for Generations of X, which was a podcast I did with Flinkman, we talked about our least favorite character. Mine was Kitty. And I was like, but the only exception is Kitty in X-Men Evolution. I wanted to be Valley Girl Kitty so badly. I would be like hello, like oh my god. Every time I talk to people, I purposely tried to do her voice and failed miserably at it, but I enjoyed the character quite a bit.
My sister and I, we had a couple of the X-Men Evolution action figures. So I had Cyclops and I had Storm. She had Nightcrawler and Storm. But they obviously didn't make versions of Rogue and Kitty. And I don't even think they made Jean.
They did not make Jean.
Yeah. So we would go to these thrift stores or like flea markets, and we would find random characters, and then we would, if they looked similar, we would buy them, and then we would just pretend that they were that character. So I had a version of Wasp. She had like the
from Avengers United. Yeah, 100%. That's the figure I was thinking of just now. when you're saying
Yes.
that.
So I took her head and put it on this other random character's like, civilian clothed body, and I made her Kitty. And that's how I had my Kitty action figure because I was like, I need her.
If I wasn't obsessed with you already, I'm more obsessed with you now. That is a perfect response to that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the ranking of the characters. And folks at home, there's so many characters that appeared in X-Men Evolution. We're only going to do our main ones, and that's Cyclops, Jean, Kitty, Rogue, Nightcrawler, Professor X, Storm, Spike, Beast, and Wolverine. That's not my order. Those are just the characters we're going to be ranking here. So please DM us, slide into the Power of X-Men DMs. Let us know your own ranking. If this is on YouTube, put it in the comments down below. Or, you know what? Chaz is the one who wanted to do an X-Men Evolution episode. So if you don't like the ranking, you can message Chaz at, what is it? At House of M Cosplay.
Cosplay, yes.
And literally blow up his DMs over your ranking and how you would do it. But Chaz, we have not we're not in sync with our ranking. So we're gonna, and I forgot what your rankings were. So why don't we kick off at number 10? Who's out of all the X-Men Evolution main cast, who's number 10 for you? Your least.
Number 10 is being the least. Okay. Spike.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It never
Eh.
it's just, I was thinking about why did I put Spike all the way down there? And when Spike was written off the show for a reason because fans were not jiving with him. But I loved his character design. And for me, he's sort of a definitive hallmark. And I was going to say, what is it about those characters that are created for a series specifically that don't do well? But Harley Quinn is an example of a character that has done really well.
Yeah.
Laura was created. X-23 was created in X-Men Evolution. Has obviously gone on. What was it about Spike?
The fact that he was so, I don't even know, like he was cool the first season maybe, and then towards the second season or something, I don't even remember. He started getting real rude. Like, how dare you disrespect your coolest aunt ever,
Oh my God.
Aurora? Like that was I don't know. I was like, how dare you? So that just turned me off that he had the coolest aunt in the world, and he
Storm
like
is
crap.
your aunt. Oh my God.
Yes.
And he recorded Kitty and Gothrogue, Valley Girl Kitty and Gothrogue as they're dancing, which is a parody of Buffy.
I love
this
it.
is a character that was, and I thought the design was cool. I think the problem was, if I can remember some of the conversation back then, the power set was so similar to Marrow, and Marrow was having her moment in the comic book. She was in Marvel versus Capcom as well. I think people wanted Marrow and not Spike. That's the only thing I can think of. I'd have to really rewatch the series and do a deep dive on why Spike was bad. But I think it was just a character that didn't really take off, and then they did so much, and they kind of convoluted him. But we're in agreement. Number 10 is definitely going to be Spike.
Look at us.
Sorry,
I have seen some amazing cosplays of him though. Like
I've never seen a cosplay of Spike.
I wish I knew who they were. I'm really bad with names. Y'all will find this. But I have seen some really good Spike cosplays, and I appreciate that. Like, if I were at a con and I saw somebody dressed up as Spike, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I want a picture with you." But he is number 10.
He's number 10. Sorry. We listen. We hope there's a revival and Spike can come in at a higher level and make amends. But again, you disrespect the coolest ant in the world, who is Storm, a literal goddess. You're gonna fall on your ranking there. All right, who is number 9 for you?
Charles, which I don't dislike him. I don't know, he doesn't do anything for me.
I kind
He didn't have the eyebrows, No, I'm just kidding.
He didn't have the eyebrows. He did have that. He had the more Sir Patrick Ian,
yes, which is great
accent, and it came across more like New England Charles, but yeah, it's they definitely redefined the character a bit there. One of the scenes I don't like for him. He's not my number 9. But one of the characters I don't like for what I didn't like for him was that Jean was graduating from high school, and then he's here like, well, I think you'll find my curriculum as a college professor better. I was like, oh, it's kind of taking me out of here a little bit. Just
Mhm.
let Jean go off to college. But
Yeah.
my number 9 is Wolverine. I know. Listen, I love the Wolverine character quite a bit, but I think the X-Men Evolution, he took a back seat a little
He
bit.
did.
I mean, it was all about the kids. It was about Gothrogue, Nightcrawler, Jean, and Scott and Spike. So I get it that characters like Storm and Wolverine were going to take a back seat, but they should still be showstoppers.
Mhm.
Even if they're going to be playing a back seat. And maybe it was the hair. He had the more like the parted down the middle, and which is my hair now, but parted down the middle in lieu of like the very feral looking Wolverine. And I think it's kind of hard to top the 90s, animated series Wolverine and the Wolverine we're
Where
getting
was the body hair?
Where
That's what I want to know.
X-Men
Wolverine needs
Evolution
body hair.
Wolverine gets it waxed.
Literally.
And I think it was more of a reaction to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, which worked
Mhm.
really well for the movies, but just doesn't do so well in the comic books and the series. So that's why he's a little lower on the list for me, sadly.
He's higher on the list for me, and I'll explain why when we get there.
Okay, so my number 8 is Professor X. And for some of the reasons I had just mentioned, and something about the character, I wish he would have had a bigger plot. Wolverine, Professor X in the original animated series had his own subplot, very
Mhm.
well done. And in the comic books, we had Onslaught. We're coming off the heels of Onslaught and Zero Tolerance, where he played a big role. And here he just kind of was like your pleasant professor. And I think the character could have done a little bit. They could have done a little bit more with him in Evolution.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
but who is your number 7
Beast.
or number 8? I'm
Which,
sorry, it's 8.
yeah, number eight.
Eight.
Beast is my number 8. I like him in the series, but I just like other characters better. So that was my only thing I liked. Um, was it? I guess it was his first episode where they introduced him, how he was kind of going crazy, and the only thing that kept him, grounded was Shakespeare. And Spike actually helped him, which was cool.
Oh, good
Um,
for Spike. You know what, Spike? There you
yeah,
go. Although we
there's
don't
some
like
bonus.
Beast here at Power of X-Men, so
I know. Well, yeah,
maybe
he
that
doesn't
doesn't help Spike at all. That's why he's now a 10.
exactly. I liked the design of Beast though, like the way
Yeah.
he looked aesthetically. I liked how he was a little more. I don't know. He kind of looked like Wolverine a little bit,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, the
and
same hairstyle and stuff like that.
yeah,
They
same
all had
hairstyles stuff.
Wolverine, Beast, and Nightcrawler all sort of had and maybe to a degree, Cyclops
Mhm.
and Gothrogue
Yeah,
all had that sort of like parted down the middle hair.
yeah. So not any particular reason. I like other characters better. So
Number 7.
mhm.
Who's number 7 for you?
Nightcrawler, and
Oh,
this goes for I loved his humor in X-Men Evolution, but again, I like him better in the animated series. I liked his more religious side. I thought that was really cool. Um, again, I think X-Men is so diverse, and you never see that anymore, really, in shows and stuff. So I think the fact that they didn't do an X-Men Evolution, I was kind of a little sad. So yeah, Nightcrawler number 7. He's kind of low on the list.
I liked him. Like, he's a bit higher on the list for me, and I'll get into why I like him. Or actually not that much higher, but spoilers for the list. Number 7 for me is Storm. I know, and here we are ragging on Spike, you know. But I think the problem with Storm was I would have liked to have seen Storm maybe be a teenager with a mohawk and be a bit more rebellious, maybe fill in the role of I don't want to take Goth Rogue away from humanity, but maybe Goth Rogue could have Goth Storm as well as a BFF, and they can both be, a ghost world, terror, as kids tend to be in their teen years. But I think making her a professor was just a little. I understand from an editorial standpoint why you would do that to a character like Storm because it would be ridiculous. She's so regal. How could you ever conceptualize her as a kid? But I think
Mhm.
if they would have leaned into her being more punk rock and being like BFFs with Jean and Goth Rogue, they could have done a lot more with the character and
Mhm.
made her stand out. She just kind of goes to the background for me
Yeah.
here. And she has a very safe design. Like her hair
Mhm.
isn't very fun. It's just very flat. And her cape isn't, she's not very goddess. She's just very like your favorite teacher. And Storm is not favorite teacher material. Storm is a hard ass. She is a goddess. She will tell it how it is. She walks into a room, she commands a presence. You know what I mean?
Well, this is honestly a perfect segue to 6 because she's number 6 on my list for the exact same reason.
Perfect. I love
Literally,
that.
I was like, because I love her so much in the animated series and the comics and stuff, I she's slightly underwhelming. And
Underwhelming is a key here. Underwhelming is a key. And it's a beautiful design. It's not a
although
bad design.
I have something to counter what you said.
Yeah.
I'm one of the like rare people. I hate Mohawk Storm. I don't like it. I like her long, flowing, beautiful hair that like flows in the wind and goes crazy.
Oh, it's also
So,
Hellfire Gala.
but I get what you're saying. It would have worked for X-Men Evolution.
Yeah, as a teenager rebelling and doing the mohawk, I'm with
Yeah.
you. I prefer her longer hair, and I
Mhm.
prefer her onslaught Joe Mad hair, which is like it's kind of cropped here, and she has the long bangs in the front. That is sort of what
Yes.
Mohawk Storm has always sort of ranked a little low for me. But I think for the character, being a rebellious teenager, the mohawk would have worked, especially given the context that you have Goth Rogue on the team.
Right. I
It-
saw a meme the other day of
yeah.
Storm from X-Men Evolution, and she's watering plants,
Mhm.
and there's a little rain cloud and a little bit of lightning, and I guess it was like Reddit or Twitter or something. I don't know. Um, I'm not social media savvy besides Instagram, but somebody commented and said, "Was the lightning bolt really necessary?" And somebody else responded and said, "Her name is Storm, not Sunny with a slight chance of rain."
I love that.
Like
That's
this is
hysterical.
perfect. But yeah,
Wait, what was your number 7?
that 7 was Nightcrawler, 6 was Storm, so I kind of segued
Okay.
from your 7
Okay, and
into
six is Beast for me, and for probably reasons to echo what you said. It just I like the design of the character. He looks really good, but just maybe you know what I think to say what we said about Storm underwhelming, especially given that I was going to call him Frank Buza. George Buza had voiced the character in the animated series, made him very likable,
Mhm.
and I don't think he had much to do. I think he was just kind of added on to the series, and he was just kind of there. And again, I wonder a lot of these characters would we have liked them had they been teenagers? Like
Mhm.
because I do like the Nicholas Holt version of Beast in X-Men First Class, and maybe if you would have
Yes.
given him an awkward romance, maybe he was like the nerdy kid who was in love with Jean or Goth Rogue or
Mhm.
Punk Storm. It would have worked a bit better for me, but he just kind of felt to the waist in the same way Kelsey Grammer's Beast. Not bad, not unlikable like he is in the comic books, but just forgettable.
Yeah,
And I think a character like Beast should not be forgettable.
it's true.
Number
'Cause you
5
love
is
it so much.
biggest Hank McCoy fan here. Number 5 for me is going to be Nightcrawler, and this is where I'm going to say this is where I start really
Mhm.
liking the characters. Nightcrawler because I think he just filled that Jughead, Riverdale sidekick very well. He was
Yes.
fun, very happy, very different take on the character of why we love him in the comic books and in the animated series. Because again, I think if you're going to do Nightcrawler, you have to lean into sort of his faith-based approach to life, and that's what makes him really unique among the team. But I think here I love his relationship with Gothrogue, something we really didn't get to fully explore in the animated series, and
Yeah.
their complicated relationship with a one Raven Darkholme and Mystique. And I always remember when Rogue pushed the statue of Mystique off the cliff, and he was devastated by it. I think we saw so much nuances with this character, so that's why he'll be
Yes.
for me.
Yeah, I know that was one thing. This is so crazy. I don't think I knew that Rogue and Kurt were half siblings until X-Men Evolution. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my word. Wow, that's crazy."
Well,
So,
they don't even touch upon that in the movie. So if you're coming at it from knowing the movies, it would be kind of hard to get there. And the books, it's
mm,
not that the books ignore it, but the books don't lean into it as
mm,
much as they should. But yeah, they are half siblings, and that is a major hallmark of those
yeah.
characters for those who grew up in the 90s. All right, who's your number 5?
Number 5 for me is Kitty.
Yeah.
I put her there because again, I just like other characters better, but I love, love, love X-Men Evolution Kitty. Like, and her relationship with Lance as well, Avalanche.
Right.
Oh, that's so perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, she's number 4 for me, so that segues perfectly. I think
Who's your number 5?
my number 5 was Nightcrawler.
Okay, okay,
And
cool.
yeah, and then my number 4 is Kitty. And Kitty for me, I really enjoyed her. I enjoyed watching her. I thought she was fun. I think it was a great interpretation of the character. In the comics at the time, she was, going through everything that she was going through with Colossus's death. So this kitty was kind of like a stark contrast to
Mhm.
that. And yeah, I love the Valley Grox. I don't know who the actress was who played her, but
Don't either.
we can fake it now and do a retake, but I honestly don't know her. And I am going to look her up and I'm going to slide into her DMs and get her on the podcast.
Do it.
There
Oh
we
my
go.
word. She has to talk in the Valley Girl accent the whole time.
All right, number 4 for you.
Number 4 for me is Rogue.
Oh,
Um,
God.
I loved Goth Rogue a little more than Kitty. Uh, I liked too how doesn't she join the Brotherhood for a little bit in X-Men Evolution. I feel like she does. And then slowly goes into Xavier's school, and you kind of see her loosen up as time goes on. And then even like when they introduced Gambit,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there wasn't a whole lot of chemistry there, but like I mean, he gave her a card and tried to blow her up. I was like, what on earth? But there was that slight little like you could see that if the seasons had gone on, it was going to happen. That would have been amazing. But yeah, Gothrobe, number
I
4.
yeah. She's a little higher on my list, so I'll get to her there, but no disagreements with what you're saying. Number 3 for me is Cyclops. And for reasons we already talked about, I think he was such a well done character on the show. He was learning to be a leader, and that's, if you ask me, I think some of the best Cyclops stories take place between Grant Morrison's New X-Men all the way through the Krakoan Age, and we see Cyclops grow and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, and instead of just being a word that rhymes with stick, see, I'm good. I'm good here. I think they're not afraid to show him flawed, and I think there's this beautiful moment where him and Jean finally come together,
Mhm.
and she's here like, I don't, Jean, he's being attacked by Mystique, and
I do know that
Jean's,
episode, Blind Alley. I love
yeah,
that one. It's my favorite.
and Cyclops is like, you found me. She's like, yeah, I don't know, I just did, and he's here like, you don't have to say it. We have this special report. It's so beautiful, the way they
Yeah.
do it. It was just really beautiful. So that's number 3 for me. Was Kitty your
Uh,
number 3?
Kitty was my number 5, and then 4 was Rogue. 3
Okay.
for me is Wolverine. I
Oh, he's high up here for you.
Yes, which is so weird because I agree. I feel like you guys have said it on the podcast before and even in lives and stuff. Wolverine is kind of overrated. Like, if anyone knows who Wolverine is, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm an X-Men fan just because they know who Wolverine is. And that always annoyed me. And anytime, like, when I was younger and I would talk to someone about, X-Men, always, oh, Wolverine's my favorite. Wolverine one. I'm like, ugh, so annoying. Pick somebody else.
Yeah.
But in X-Men Evolution, I loved that version of him. I liked how he was a little more tame. I liked how he was kind of respected among the students as a professor. Um, and honestly, if I were to cosplay any version of Wolverine, I would do his X-Men Evolution look, just because
Oh,
I love it.
that's a slam dunk. Yeah. A, you could pull it off really well. And B, you know what? You kind of inspired me to like him a little bit more there because you're right.
Melvin,
Oh, don't worry.
welcome, Melvin. Hey, we're busy. I need you to be quiet, please. Thank you.
So cute. Sorry, Melvin. I'll send you back to your dad. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I like that version much better now that you've said it. And I like the idea that he is sort of respected and not the saucy, person on the team, the anti-hero on the team. So,
Yeah.
all right, number 2 for me is Goth Rogue. I just think she steals the stage. She has a really great character journey, starting off from a very complicated, history with the X-Men, all the way through her complicated history with Mystique to ending with us alluding to the fact that she will take Miss Marvel's power, Captain Marvel's powers. But for me, when she goes up to Leech in Ascension, in the finale of the series, and she goes, I need your power to help save the world. And she's like, I'm only going to take a little bit. And to see someone like Gothrogue, who's been so tough and anti, everything to look at this little mutant and be like, hey, you're the only one who can save us, and having that emotional, part of her and empathy. I loved it 100%.
Yes, I actually forgot about that scene until you started talking. I was like, oh
Mhm.
yes, I
It is
forgot.
beautiful. And
It
everyone who
is
talks about X-Men Evolution talks about Goth Rogue, so she is
literally.
deserving of number 2. She is
I
deserving
feel
of
like
number
she was also the first cosplay that I had seen of X-Men Evolution was
2.
Goth Rogue.
Hmm.
And they're always well done. Every single one I've ever seen. I'm like, oh,
Oh yeah.
Goth Rogue, yes. My number 2 is your God Queen, Jean Grey. I love her in this version. Like her look, like the sharp jawline and her hair, and I don't know, her suit is so simple, but she always has those bangles on. Um,
Those bangles, yeah. Those bangles
yeah,
are definitely something.
they are they're on there. Funny
Well,
story about when I had Emily cosplay as Jean. The first time we went to a con, she forgot the bangles, and I was like, "No, the bangles!"
that's it. That's it. She's canceled. Emily, that's
Exactly.
what's really gonna get you and Emily canceled now.
That's why
It's
she
the
doesn't have a cosplay Instagram. I'm just
I
kidding.
love how you just shaded your wife here. Well,
Sorry.
so I mean that leads into my number 1, which is God Queen, Jean, and or the reasons you just mentioned, but also the character design was beautiful, but also that I think this version of Jean is sort of the definitive version of Jean, which is
Mhm.
on the surface, she appears perfect, put together, but she's actually a bit wayward. She has trouble controlling her power. She wants to make friends with people, but people see her a certain way,
Mhm.
and she doesn't feel that way. You know, the looming threat of the Phoenix is on the horizon for her. She has so much ahead of her. When Xavier holds her at the end of Ascension, and she's like, Professor, you're here, and he hugs her and he looks at her and gets really sad because he knows what's to come for her and all the tragedy that's there. But in the present, she is a force to be reckoned with. But that's why I love God Queen in this.
Yes. I mean, honestly, that's a great number 1,
Your
which
number
goes
one.
great with my number 1 because mine is Cyclops.
Of course, of
I
course.
don't know why, because it's not like I cosplay him or anything.
No, you don't.
Uh,
Did you? No, someone else is doing that.
yeah, it wasn't me. But no, I love this version of Scott, and uh, I kind of saw a lot of myself in him because in school I was like the goody two shoe, play by the rules. I was always kind of like the leader. If we had a school project, I took the helm, and uh, obviously I made mistakes, and I don't know. I loved X-Men Evolution Scott.
He's
He's
a great
he
design.
Yeah, it was good. I know. This was back before I was still kind of in my Disney mindset, so I wasn't following Marvel and X-Men as close as I used to. But um, I remember one day I logged on to Google or something, and it said that the voice actor for him had passed away, and
I
I
think
was
he
like,
did. The voice actor for X-Men Evolution, Scott, for X-Men animated series, Scott, he did pass away. Let me see for
"But did
X-Men.
Evolution as well?" I
I
thought
think,
X-Men
I
Evolution,
think, I think, I think so as well. I don't think you're wrong.
because I remember I hadn't thought of X-Men Evolution in a while, and then I logged on and they showed a picture of X-Men Evolution Cyclops, and it said, voice actor passes away, and I was like, "What? Oh my word!" Are you
Yeah.
fact
Let's
checking?
see. Kirby. Yeah, he did in 2020.
Yes. Okay. So it was around. I think it was around the time. I think Chadwick Boseman also passed away like shortly after, and I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, I'm trying to see. The cause of his death was related to a long history of alcohol abuse. So,
Wow,
yeah. Well, he did a phenomenal job, and we are here
he did.
talking about him. And his name is Kirby Morrow. So, Kirby Morrow,
Mm,
thank you for giving us such a wonderful character. Chaz, we have
yes,
done 2 hours of an episode. It's like, oh, let's
we
keep it to
said
like
45
45
minutes.
minutes. And here we are. But there was a lot of ground to cover. So, Chaz, tell us, where can folks at home connect with you? And what's on the horizon? What can we expect out of your cosplay?
So you can connect with me at House of M Cosplay. Guess it's a little plug-in for the comics, and then also my last name is Malico, so House of Malico Cosplay. And as of right now, I don't have any cons or anything that I see me going to because of House Broke.
It's
But
a
we
good problem to
may
have.
We
probably.
may be going to Nashville Comic Con, which is in June. I don't know the exact dates, but we may be there.
Well, let me know. I'll put in press for us. We can take the whole team.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty small. It's pretty small because we went to it last year, but it's growing. So, uh, but yeah, Nashville Comic Con. They also have Music City Con. I think that's in October, but I could be wrong. I could even have the two confused. I have a lot going on right now. So
You're buying a house and you're packing
buying
up
a house.
everything.
I started school again, so it's crazy. But yeah.
Well, thank you for making time for us today. I know I came at you
Thank
last minute and you were like, maybe you'll be free this week. I'm like, I'm free tonight, actually. So
I am so happy. I'm honored.
folks, we are Power of X-Men on Instagram. We're going to hit up a couple other regional cons on the podcast. We have a lot of episodes coming down the pipeline. I kind of already hinted that Flink and I are trying to do a cast reunion with a certain group. We'll get that down the line. And we have a couple interview requests out there. And sadly, I'm the one who's flaking on people. I'm telling these celebrity publicists, I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm the one who can't make it for that date. So we're figuring everything out. But DM us at Power of X-Men. Let us know your thoughts on X-Men Evolution, your favorite characters. Let Chaz know how awesome all of his cosplays
Thank
are.
you.
Cancel him for having Emily go to a con without the Jean bangles from X-Men Evolution. Horrible. Horrible.
He doesn't like Jubilee. He didn't let his wife wear the bangles.
Who the fuck is this guy? Anyways, he's a great guy, and everyone needs to hit him up at House of M Cosplay.